Very good evening to you. This is Easy Friday. My name is Shiksha, Arora, and I'll be your host tonight for Easy Friday as I tell you what's happening in the country and beyond. Of course, also giving you an outlook on what's going on in the world of news and business. And then later on, we've got some entertainment for you. So all that and much more right here on Easy Friday. My sign language interpreter tonight is Lucy Mwaura. Now remember, you can also get in touch with us and interact with us. The hashtag is Easy Friday. Tell us where you're watching from at KBC Channel 1 at Shiksha Arora. But for right now, though, it's time to take a look at what's happening in terms of the highlights. Let's take a look. Welcome to Easy Friday and tonight's top story. Now, 29 more bodies have been exhumed from Shakahola Forest by the multi-agency team leading the search and rescue mission. Now, this is the highest number ever since the operation began, bringing the total number of bodies exhumed to 180. Take a look.
Speaking to the press at the Shakahola Command Center, Coast Region Coordinator Raila Odinga said no person has been rescued today, but the number of those rescued since the onset of the operation stands at 72 persons.
The Polanski team has gone on with the exhumations, and today they have been able to exhume 29 bodies. The arrests still remain at 25. Those that have been rescued remain 72. Those that have been reunited with their families remain at 14. DNA samples 93.
The regional boss said the team has extended the search and rescue operation to midnight. The Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Kithure Kindiki, has since declared Shakahola Forest a crime scene with security of the area with a multi-agency team constituted to lead the search and rescue mission. The regional coordinator noted that they are still receiving claims of missing persons, with the number rising to 609 so far. Michael Mondiga for Easy Friday, Shakahola, Kilifi County.
May their souls rest in peace. Now moving on, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua wants religious leaders to back government plans to review regulations governing religious organizations, while cautioning against blanket condemnation of charges and the clergy over the Shakahola deaths in Kilifi County. The Deputy President says the information being sought by the Presidential Task Force formed is meant to help guide on how to streamline the registration and records of the religious groups.
Criticism from the opposition over the formation of a presidential task force headed by Reverend Mutava Musyimi. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has defended the move, calling on members of the clergy to back government's plan. Gachagua says the task force will help create a roadmap governing registration and record keeping of religious groups.
That information makanisa mnaulizwa ni ya kusaidia. Tujue kanisa yako ni gani, imekuwa registered. We have a record, so that as government tujue who is who.
While cautioning against a blanket condemnation of a church, the second in command says there are elements exploiting the Bible for commercial enterprise and to promote criminal activities.
Hakuna mtu wako na vita na kanisa, hata kidogo. Ile iko watu wawili watatu kwa maelfu ya makasisi ambao ni wahalifu na wanatumia kanisa kutenda maovu.
Gachagua says no one will be spared in the fight against religious extremism.
The church is a reflection of society. And in society, there is one or two people who do the wrong things. And those people must be isolated and action taken against them in their individual capacity.
He spoke during the memorial service of John Njoroge Ndung'u, father of Juja Member of Parliament George Koimburi in Kiambu County. John Jacob Curia, Easy Friday.
Moving on, self-proclaimed Yesu Watongaren will be a guest of the state for the next 4 days. Now, this is after the High Court in Bungoma gave the green light for his incarceration pending investigations into his religious doctrines. The development comes as Milimani Law Courts shelved a ruling seeking to have Pastor Ezekiel Odero bank accounts unfrozen. The verdict will be delivered next week, Wednesday.
The crackdown on individuals suspected to be engaged in unorthodox preachings continued, with the court now granting the green light for the arrest of self-proclaimed Yesu Watongaren. The man who professes to be Jesus, flanked by his followers, walked into Bungoma local safari.
This matter is in public domain.
Shortly after, he would remain behind as a guest of the state after Principal Magistrate Tom Orlando gave the nod to detain him for 4 days to allow investigations into the activities of his church.
For the sake of the public interest, where it is said that there is danger of criminal activities that are taking place at the premises where he manages.
The court also ordered he undergoes a mental evaluation at Bungoma Referral Hospital and issued a search warrant for his rural home.
The suspect will be held at Bungoma Police Station for 4 days, and the prosecution to conclude their investigation within that period of time.
Eliud Wekesa Simeo, alias Yesu Watongaren, however, remains optimistic he will overcome his tribulations.
Maana kilicho na mwanzo kina mwisho pia, na mara nyingi unena nao ukanga mwororo haufi kabla haujakamilika. Miaka iliyopita ya kale pia niliitwa mwindawazimu.
The matter is expected to be mentioned on the 16th of May 2023. Separately, Milimani Court Trial Magistrate Ben Makehobe has suspended Pastor Ezekiel Odero's application to have his bank account unfrozen pending a ruling scheduled for Monday 15th May 2023.
In the event that the High Court in its supervisory powers directs and dictates otherwise, then again we'll find squarely before you.
So we prefer that then perhaps, so that we save ourselves as well, this energy and you, the time, let us just wait for the ruling then, so you can arrest this ruling.
The application by his lawyers filed before the Milimani Chief Magistrate Court seeks to quash orders freezing his bank accounts on grounds that the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, through the Office of the DPP, did not disclose that a similar application had been rejected by a court sitting in Shanzu, Mombasa.
And then probably the ruling will more or less let's wait before we then take any further steps. Yeah. So Tuesday.
Ruth Wamboy for Easy Friday.
All right, now moving on to other stories where the Western region leads in the consumption of alcohol at 24%, followed by Coast region 14% and Central at 13% respectively. Latest survey by the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, that's NACADA. Central region, however, has the highest number of people who consume illicit brews. The report further indicated 1 in every 3 males aged 15 to 65 years and 1 in every 16 females were using at least one drug substance.
In a report released on Friday on the National Survey on the Status of Drugs and Substance Use in Kenya by National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, NACADA, Western region had the highest consumption of alcohol with 23.8%, followed by Coast at 13.9% and Central at 12.8%.
Is if you look at, for example, the age between 25 and 35. This is the age that we are supposed to be, these are the people that we expect to be the most productive and who are now in employment. The preference rate, particularly for alcohol, for example, is 14%. And these are the people we will find in the workplaces. And these are the people you expect to drive the economy.
The survey established that alcohol continues to be the most widely used substance of abuse in Kenya, with findings pointing towards increasing demand for cheaper and readily available alcoholic products, especially chang'aa, traditional brews and portable spirits. The report also indicates that the number of Kenyans using cannabis has increased over the years, with more youth consuming the illegal substance, the latest report by NACADA shows.
What we are seeing is a serious and growing problem of drug and substance abuse in the country. And what we are seeing is the fact that the young population is more into drug use than even the elderly people.
The prevalence of cannabis use stands at 1.9% among Kenyans aged 15 to 65, which is 518,807 people, while the use among the ages of 15 to 24 is 2.7%. The report further shows the minimum age of initiation into drug and substance abuse to be 6 years. Stakeholders have called for concerted efforts to end the emerging trend of drug abuse.
Very alarming rate over there. That is the rate of substance or drug abuse. Now, moving on. Detectives drawn from the Directorate of Criminal Investigation in Kitengela have intercepted 3 stolen vehicles and a range of number plates at a garage in Juakali, Kitengela. The officers, acting on a tip-off from members of the public, raided the garage within Kitengela, Juakali, arresting 2 suspects.
The garage owner was found changing some parts of 2 Toyota vehicles of the Axio model before giving information that led to the arrest of another suspect who had brought the stolen vehicle to the garage. Detectives arrested the other suspect along Mombasa Road while driving a brand new Toyota Probox which had no number plate.
Tukajaribu kwa jitihada zetu tukaenda hiyo workshop, that is Kitengela, Juakari area. We were able to tulikuta gari 2 aina Axel. Zote zinaonekana zikiwa mpya, gari mpya ambazo tunaamini kwamba ziliibiwa, either ziliibiwa ni za wizi.
Tens of number plates, mainly comprising new number plates, were recovered in his car. Kitengela DCIO in charge Benson Mutie said the discovery of the stolen vehicles and arrest of the 2 suspects is a major breakthrough in cracking down car theft cartels.
The moment we have two suspects in the custody, we are before court. We are seeking for orders from the court to have them being able to do so that they can lead us into other outlets, because we believe this dragnet is a syndicate that has been operating within Kitengela and Nairobi.
Mutie says the criminals have changed tactics of operation, and instead of dismantling the stolen vehicles to sell spare parts, they instead change modification to avert any tracing. Some of the recovered number plates are legitimate and registered to vehicles that are already operating. He noted that the duplication of number plates is a big threat to genuine motor vehicle owners who may be unaware of the existence of stolen vehicles with identical plates.
Zile magari, zile number plate tulipata kwa hizo gari, zingine ni za magari ambazo zinatembea wenyewe wako na hizo magari. Zingine gari zimeibiwa, lakini wenyewe wanasema gari yake haiko hapo. Kwa hivyo ni kumaanisha hizi gari hizo number plate ndio zinatumika aidha kufanya uhalifu. Sasa wewe ukipatikana tukifuata mwizi, kumbe tunafuata the wrong person.
The 2 suspects are currently being held at Kitengela police station. They will be arraigned in court on Monday.
On to other news, where controversy continues to mount over proposals to deduct levies towards the housing fund. Azimio leader Raila Odinga has termed the proposal as ill-advised and illegal. Raila, faulting the proposed deduction, argues not all Kenyans require houses and there is need for public participation to thrash out the concerns.
Debate remains rife over proposals to deduct 3% from salaries towards the government's housing fund. Azimio leader Raila Odinga has criticized the decision by the Kenya Kwanza administration to slash 3% from the working class to fund the proposed affordable housing project.
Ushuru mkitaka tulewane.
Speaking in Getui village in Kiharu constituency of Murang'a County during the funeral of Mama Mary Nyambura, the mother-in-law to former governor of Murang'a County, Mwangi wa Iria, Odinga called for a more participatory approach in implementation of affordable housing.
Unataka kutoza mtu ushuru ili ujenge yeye nyumba. Ulize yule ambaye anataka nyumba. Akubali yeye atatoa. Na yule ambaye ana nyumba anatoa ya nini? Kwa hivyo tukipinga kitu tunapinga tu kwa sababu ya maslahi ya Wakenya.
Additionally, he faulted tax proposals contained in the finance bill, saying they will overburden Kenyans.
Kijana hasla ameanza biashara kidogo hii ya ICT, anatoza ushuru kubwa zaidi. Wamama ambao wanashuka nywele na kupaka makucha rangi, sasa watatoza ushuru. Wamama sasa hata mambo ya kurembesha hakuna tena. Je, hii ni ungwana? Hii ni ungwana? Tukisema hiyo ni mbaya, tumefanya makosa.
Wabunge wetu wote waambiwe hiyo bill ya kuongeza gharama ya maisha ikienda huko waangushe.
Similar sentiments were expressed by nurses and midwives who opposed the mandatory deductions towards the housing fund. The nurses were speaking during the launch of the Nurses and Midwives Week.
Now, the Kenya Nutritionists and Dietitians Institute is sounding an alarm over increasing cases of malnutrition, calling on the government to allocate funds towards nutrition and sensitizing agriculture. According to the Institute's Chief Executive Officer, David Okeo, the country loses 374 billion shillings annually in addressing malnutrition. Livestock Principal Secretary Mukami Kimathi, speaking during the launch of a national nutrition sensitive training package, challenged farmers to invest in climate-smart technologies to boost the country's food security.
Cases of malnutrition remain a growing concern amid calls for farmers to invest in farming nutritious foods. To address this challenge, Kenya Nutritionists and Dietitians Institute, in partnership with Food and Agriculture Organization and African Nutritional Sciences Research Consortium, Nutrition Sensitive Training Package.
So malnutrition makes us lose 374 billion Kenyan shillings. That is a huge amount of money. So if we prevent malnutrition, then the government will be in a position to save quite a good proportion of those billions.
Since diversifying production in general, it will ensure that these nutrient-dense foods are available at household level if well linked with nutrition knowledge.
The package targets to train farmers on nutrition-sensitive agriculture that will in turn avert the health burden of malnutrition.
We will work together with the implementers to design or to guide them on how to design programs that are actually taking the aspect of practical demonstrations.
KNDI Chief Executive Officer David Okeo is calling for the upscaling of multi-sectoral engagements through partnership and intergovernmental collaboration on funding of key interventions.
We have to strengthen also human resource. If we have 10,000 nutritionists in the country and only 2,000 are in the service delivery, what are we telling parents and Kenyans?
Principal Secretary for Livestock Mukami Kimathi, attending the launch, lauded the initiative, assuring of the government's commitment towards food security through provision of fertilizer subsidies for farmers, insurance programs, and encouraging use of climate-smart technologies and innovations.
We need then to be more sensitive about the nutritional value. Get it right, nutritional value of that product that you're producing. Because if you don't handle it well, for example, then it loses that nutritional value.
Opito Chemtai for Easy Friday.
Now, at least 10,000 people are expected to attend the burial of Mukami Kimathi, the wife of the late freedom fighter Dedan Kimathi. Interior and Administration of National Government Permanent Secretary Raymond Omolo, who inspected the burial preparations at her rural home in Jambi, Nyandarua County, said plans are almost complete. Take a look.
Interior and Administration of National Government Permanent Secretary Raymond Omolo was at Jambi, Nyandarua County to inspect the burial preparations of Mukami Kimathi, the wife of the late freedom fighter Dedan Kimathi, slated for tomorrow. Preparations at its final stages, with a dome tent erected in the compound and feeder roads leading to the homestead Maramd.
I'm taking this opportunity to welcome everyone to Nyandarua tomorrow. The roads are good. We have graded them and they are okay. And even if it rains, I can see the size of the dome that we have. It can cover over 10,000 people.
The Interior PS say that security has been beefed up during the service that is expected to be attended by the head of state and his deputy, among other dignitaries.
And we are satisfied with the level of preparations towards tomorrow's event. And we have adequate security arrangement to ensure that there is a free and easy flow of members of the public for tomorrow's occasion.
At the same time, Omolo refuted claims of police invasion to former Mungiki leader Njenga Maina's home in Laikipia, Nairobi. Initially, there were concerns that Mukami's burial will not take place before the remains of the freedom fighter Dedan Kimathi were located and given a decent burial. Mukami, who died at the age of 96 while receiving treatment at a hospital in Nairobi, will be interred tomorrow. Parsayo Frederick, Easy Friday.
All right, and with that, it's time for us to take our first commercial break, but we will be back with much more. Of course, there is a lot that we have in store for you, including the latest from the African nations who have been challenged to unite and take matters, climate change, more seriously. That's coming up in a short while.
Aviator instant game. Be a daring pilot and earn by how much high you can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. That bet.
Colgate Herbal is formulated from a unique blend of natural herbs and is scientifically proven to strengthen teeth and keep gums healthy. Try Colgate Herbal, scientifically proven for strong teeth and healthy gums.
To get Skizatune Hail Mary, dial *811 *963 #.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
To get Hail Mary, dial *811 *963 #. *811 *963 #.
In the name of Jesus Christ, Mungu anatarajia ukanyange hatua mbele. Wengine wametawaliwa na uchawi, wakati wao umefika. Wewe umenitazama siku ya leo. Neema na kibali cha Bwana kikawe juu ya maisha yako.
What am I forgetting? Nini? Workers paid. Rent checked. Mlango locked. Visiting out of this. Ngoza mzae silitoa jana long. Internet sorted. What is it? What am I forgetting?
Nini? Nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto.
Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Unaweza shinda hadi milioni 2.
kwenye M-Pesa, chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number, weka 757070. Account number, weka neno Loto. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2000. Lipa kisha subiri draw. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLP.
Welcome back to Easy Friday. Now moving on to the next story, where African nations have been challenged to unite and confront climate change in the wake of a deepening environmental crisis. Environment Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya says there is need for countries to collaborate and take action to avert environmental degradation for the future of the continent. Now this comes as Kenya prepares to host the Africa Climate Summit in September. The government of Denmark has released $1 million towards preparations for the week-long summit. More than 10,000 delegates are expected to attend the summit.
Kenya is set to host this year's Africa Climate Summit and Africa Climate Week, scheduled for 4th to 8th September at Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi. Speaking after unveiling the secretariat of the summit in Nairobi, Environment Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya said the key focus of the event is to consolidate Africa's voice ahead of the United Nations General Assembly and the COP28 in the United Arab Emirates later this year. She said the summit is unique since all African heads of state and governments are expected to convene under the umbrella of African Union dedicated to climate action.
His Excellency President Ruto is clear that the summit will chart a green growth pathway for the African continent, setting the stage for Africa to lead the globe towards a more ecologically responsible global industrialization, catalyzed by financing that is accessible, adequate, and affordable.
According to the CS, the summit will be anchored on 6 pillars, namely climate finance, mitigation and green growth, climate adaptation and resilience, loss and damage, climate vulnerable groups, research, innovation and technology. The Danish embassy said its government had set aside $1 million towards preparation for the summit.
A key outcome from the Africa Climate Summit will be an African Leaders Nairobi Declaration on climate change and call to action.
What do we do about attracting finance to the global south on climate change, because it is not really happening in the speed where it should.
The theme of the event is Africa Together for Bold, Innovative and Resourced Climate Action, unlocking climate finance and green investments.
And we can no longer argue about the evidence. Reports of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, including the latest 6th assessment report, shows that despite Africa being the least emitter of greenhouse gases, the continent suffers the worst effects of climate change, affecting livelihoods and curtailing our development aspirations.
President Ruto, as you know, has made the issue of climate actually his flagship foreign policy issue. For the reason that climate is no longer something that you can talk about in the dark.
Separately, Kenya Forest Service has kicked off a nationwide tree planting exercise, which targets to plant 60 million trees during the short rainy season. Led by the acting chief conservator of forests, Alex Lomokoko, more than 100 Kenya Forest Service officers planted 3,000 trees at Ngong Forest as part of the ongoing campaign to increase the country's forest cover. Currently, Kenya has a forest cover of 8.83%. President William Ruto is targeting to have 15 billion trees planted in the next 10 years.
We are planted in schools, all the schools, and we are all the public places. And the exercise is still on.
Because most of the trees were planted here are indigenous trees, which are very good at conserving the environment.
The sustainability plan is in 4 different aspects. That is environment, ICT, education, and health.
Timothy Kipnusu, For Prime Edition.
Now, the Kiambu High Court has ruled that former Ruto MCA Samuel Njoroge and 2 others have a case to answer over the murder of Lucy Jambi. In his ruling, Justice Joel Ngugi ruled that the prosecution had proved beyond reasonable doubt that the trio had a hand in the murder of Lucy Jambi. Jambi is believed to have been raped and burnt with acid on the night of her death. This and other stories on our County News Wrap.
During the court proceeding, the Magistrate Justice Joel Ngugi ruled that the evidence provided by the prosecution proved that Samuel Njoroge, Joy Jambi and Wilson Mwangi had a case to answer over the murder of Lucy Jambi, which happened on 24th of January 2018. The hearing will be on 15th and 16th of June this year.
The prosecution relied on dying declaration evidence as well as circumstantial evidence, both of which it claims connect the accused persons to the murder.
Elsewhere, Nawiri USAID has rolled out the production of fodder and harvesting of rainwater to help fill pastures that were overgrazed by livestock during drought.
We came and cultivated this land with the community, and we've seen that it will be better if we hand over to our young girls in that they can be able to support their life activity.
Finally, police in Kinangop, Nyandarua County have arrested 2 men for allegedly cultivating bang. North Kinangop Deputy County Commissioner Sarah Chepkemboi has said that the 2 were arrested during a joint multi-agency operation.
So far, si bangi peke yake ndio tunaangalia. Tunajaribu kuangalia kwamba tunafanya operation pamoja as a multi-agency team tukiungana na polisi. Tuhakikishe ya kwamba hata wale ambao wanafunja sheria kwa kuuza pombe haramu na kuuza pombe wakati ambapo haihitajiki.
Victor Ocheng for Easy Friday.
Now, running into trouble with the authorities, especially for controversial reasons, always gives keyboard warriors hot content. This week, cyber surfers were fed with legit dramatic cases that they could not resist. The savage netizens, as always, had a lot to write and grin about at the same time. Here's that story.
Law and order, the one thing netizens don't like to align with, but if there's something else they like even more, is the people who break the law. We begin with the funniest, if not craziest, content.
Ninayo furaha mbwito.
Yesu wa Tongaren, who gained popularity for proclaiming that he is Jesus, found himself in a clash with the authorities who are questioning the legitimacy of his teachings. Netizens definitely had much to say over his arrest. Brian started by tweeting, Yesu leo amefikishwa kwa Pilato. Omoga asked, amekosa nini?
Hilo swali ndugu umeniuliza mara mingi sana. Hilo swali umeweza kuliuliza kabisa.
Jimmy responded, if he is truly Jesus as he claims, let him free himself. Caliph Wandering tweeted, mbona anapanda gari na Yesu mwana kondoo alipanda punda? Paul, siding with Yesu wa Tongaren, tweeted, actually, he has made Kenyans laugh a couple of weeks ago. Achwe tu. Professor of the Heist, concluding on the matter, tweeted, huyu naye wamwache tu. Exit Yesu wa Tongaren, enter Archbishop Arthur Kitonga and his special prayer for Baba on Labor Day that left the masses in stitches. Was it a scripted political prayer or the good bishop was trying to be witty?
Hata Honorable Raila Odinga aweze kuzeeka akiwa na amani, wakati uko naye ni wa retirement, aritire na amani, na tunamwombea amani, mambo ya maandamano barabarani ya wachane naye.
Kevin wrote, sasa kuombea opposition leader ni kitu ya kukasirisha watu. Evans tweeted, ombi la muhimu sana. Major wrote, I like being neutral. I think he went too far. Chifu responded, aliomba ukweli. Yesu Watongaren isn't the only one who got into trouble with the law this week. Wycliffe Moenga, a self-proclaimed member of parliament, stunned the netizens. Moenga allegedly hacked into the government system and employed himself as an MP by adding a constituency to Nyamira County. Jaco Labo wondered, so yeye pia alikuwa na complain of late salary last month? Thige responded, look, he just created an employment opportunity. Brilliant. Omosh, show us your ways mkuu. Miss Kinogu, it's called Buruwein. Richard is convinced that he is the only MP overworking. Musings tweeted, no dull day in Kenya. I agree, Musings. So let's play one hot banger to end the week on a brighter note.
Club. Hii samosa ni kama nzi yako. Ai, venye ina slap kishash. Kishash, kishash kwa bash. Kishash, kishash kwa bash.
Well, that's it for us. Catch you next week on Savage Netizens for Easy Friday. I am Teresa Mutai.
All right, of course, now moving on to business news, where the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya is urging the government to look for alternative ways of funding the affordable housing program. Now, the institution's president, Abraham Samoei, says the proposed 3% deduction of workers' salary cannot sustain the affordable housing project, as it requires a huge capital to actualize, and there is need to deepen the public-private partnership instead of additional levies.
Kenya grapples with an average of 200,000 housing unit deficit annually, with the government keen on starting an affordable housing scheme to meet the demand. The government has proposed a 3% reduction on worker salary, with the employer matching the amount for Housing Development Fund. The Institution of Surveyors of Kenya says the reductions are not adequate and there is need for alternative funding for the housing projects.
Savings of 3%, if you look at the incomes, the average incomes of Kenyans, of civil servants, of everyone, is very low for them to achieve the house in the short term, in their lifetime, many of them in their lifetime. Because if you look at people earning over 100,000, are very few.
The Institution of Surveyors of Kenya is proposing the deepening of the public-private partnership model for the private sector to undertake the project at a subsidized cost.
We are struggling with debts. So you are in a debt situation, you want to take on high capital intensive projects, housing, to serve a population that is largely not able to afford in the open marketplace is very difficult.
They are also calling for tighter regulations for land buying companies to reduce cases of fraud.
Some of these issues are funneled through fraud by the people who are also working within the government offices or the lands offices, and also other brokers who are familiar with the lands in those particular.
You hear a lot of Kenyans speaking, they have lost a lot of money in buying land, and if you do not stop or you not cure that sentiment in the market and inspire confidence, you will not achieve much investment there.
Benson Druba reporting for Easy Friday.
Now, travel agents are leveraging digital platforms to market tourist sites buoyed by increased travel post-COVID restrictions. Crowned Eagle Safari's team leader, David Aiteo, is urging hospitality industry players to leverage on the growing popularity of social media platforms such as TikTok, Instagram and Twitter as an affordable and accessible marketing platform. Take a look.
Ease of global travel restrictions post-COVID-19 pandemic has seen the hospitality industry bloom.
Our hard work is now paying off because if we compare the numbers between last year and this year, we can see there's a lot of improvement.
Local travel agents are upbeat ahead of the high season slated for next month, with some recording increased bookings.
They rarely go to shags. Nowadays, Kenyans are really taking vacations to the Kenyan coast, to Masai Mara, Samburu, Amboseli. They are really embracing it.
Iteo says the use of online platforms to market various attraction sites is paying off owing to accessibility and affordability.
Now we are trying to be very big on social media platforms, that is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to make sure that we are reaching all Kenyans, and of course we have deals for them.
He says customized travel bookings are gaining traction among domestic travelers keen on avoiding last-minute travel rush.
And therefore, we've come up with a plan whereby we call it Lipa Mdogo Mdogo Bila Stress. This is whereby our customers have even started booking for December holidays right now by just putting in a small deposit just to confirm their booking, and then they can pay installments without pressure.
Kenya expects to attract 1.5 million tourists this year. Regina Manyara reporting for Easy Friday.
And of course, social media marketing has become one of the most popular tools of advertising, and this has happened with the rise of influencers. We have seen paid promotions really paying off, and of course, this is something that I feel needs to be implemented not just in the tourism sector, but in all sectors of business. Now, moving on, the contracts for geothermal electricity generators could be extended from 25 years to 35 years in efforts to reduce the cost of power to less than 75 US cents per unit.
There has been debate in regards to the length of the power purchase agreements, with some arguing that the 25-year deals are too long, while others feel it should be longer. Now the government is considering longer power purchase deals for those generating electricity from geothermal from the current 25 years to 35 years in efforts geared towards reducing the retail cost of power.
Looking into generating geothermal at less than 7 US cents at the moment. And if we prolong the PPAs, as we have seen with the All Carrier 1, and put up PPAs for 30 years, 35 years or 40 years, then the cost of power should be able to come much lower than what we are talking about, 7 US cents.
Engineer Washira, who was on a tour of Baringo Silali Geothermal project, said the longer power purchase agreements would motivate more investors to tap geothermal.
And we are going to talk with the financing partners so that they allow us to prolong a PPA, and that way we can have a lower cost of power, and that is what is going to spur industrialization in this country.
The Silali block in Baringo has prospects to generate 3,000 megawatts, with the first phase in Parker Hills having successfully discharged last well and is now ready for visibility test.
Hiyo ni stima itawakisha hii dunia, so leteni sasa tuanze kuongea na Ketraco, tuanze kuleta stima ijae area hii. Na ile factory siko Nairobi yote tuna zero rate power pande hii. Wanakuja kujenga industrial park dunia hii yote, ndio hivi vijana wanaibanga ng'ombe wakuje wafanye kazi kwenye industry, si ndio?
So far, the Geothermal Development Company has successfully drilled 14 geothermal wells in the Baringo Silali Geothermal project. Kenya has a capacity to generate 10,000 megawatts from geothermal, but currently less than 1,000 megawatts is generated from geothermal.
Now moving on to matters fuel, where fuel prices which will start to ease in the coming weeks as the government imported oil starts to be distributed by oil marketers. National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndungu says already the state-to-state oil arrangement has softened the demand for US dollars, easing the pressure on the Kenyan shilling. He spoke when he received 2 tankers loaded with 100,000 metric tons of super petrol and diesel from the United Arab Emirates.
In March this year, Kenya, United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia signed a oil deal to supply oil to Kenya using the shilling. The deal that was widely quoted in Africa will see the Kenyan shilling replace the US dollar as the currency of trade. The venture is expected to ease the demand for the dollar in Kenya and help stabilize the shillings. Last month, Kenya received the first consignment loaded with 172,191 tons of petrol, diesel, and aviation fuel. Today, Kenya received the second consignment with the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndung'u saying this will have a major impact on the cost of fuel in the coming weeks.
What we are actually saying is that if we remove this temporary shortfall or temporary volatility, then it is going to also allow an appropriate pricing of the dollar even during the global shortage. It's also going to reflect in terms of how the shilling should trade in the long run. So it means that we will sink back into a stability and predictable prices.
Ndung'u says the government-to-government framework is an innovative solution that will ensure stability and prediction of pump prices. Kenyans are waiting with bated breath to see whether fuel prices will drop in this month's review on Sunday. The state-to-state oil deal will see the Kenyan government defer payments to suppliers by at least 6 months.
The consignment that we had in April will be paid in September, isn't it?